doesn't necessarily interest me. What actually interests me are the two arguments that you made offhand. The one involving the economic the economic argument for migration, and the next one, your support for Black Lives Matter, and the specific quip that you put out there, which I found really hilarious. So those are the two that I kind of have something to say about. If you wanted to talk more generally about it, then we could. But I mean, it's just, those are the ones that I have opinions on.
Sure, we can go over the first one. What are your opinions on what I said that you disagree with about the economic argument for immigration?
So I want to say, are you live right now or what's
Yeah,
up?
yeah, I'm sorry. I should have told you that. Yeah, I
That's
am.
cool. I didn't know. Did my white nationalist monkey joke get on air?
Love y'all and your
Yeah, I think
thumbs.
so. But you should be
Yes.
okay, right? Yeah, we're okay.
Yeah, all right. So, what I had the problem with is you were arguing for mass migration
I don't think
using
I
the
was arguing for mass migration. I think I was just trying to argue against the idea that we need to like dramatically curb immigration based on the idea that we need to maintain like a white majority.
right,
Uh,
right. Well, you were specifically arguing for an economic migration, saying that any increase in the GDP is a net benefit to the economy, and you saying that is basically you saying that you don't understand how GDP is calculated, or you don't understand what GDP means to the average person. And what I
sure.
wanted to ask you is whose economy do you think is better, India's or the United Kingdom's? Considering the fact that India recently kicked the United Kingdom out of the seventh largest GDP in the world. Whose economy do you think is necessarily better?
Okay. So, backing up a little bit. Firstly, growth of GDP does not concretely mean that an economy is growing for everybody. There are other ways to measure this. GDP per capita is one, but even that's not a good metric to measure it by. There are tons of other purchasing power, real nominal wages or whatever. Like, there's tons of different ways to measure these metrics, okay? I'm not arguing that GDP has grown, therefore the American economy is better for everybody. What I was arguing was that the entire American economy has grown, which I think can be demonstrated in different ways, and other economists seem to agree with that. So I'm not taking the argument that GDP growth period means economy is better for everybody, because obviously that would be asinine and stupid to say. I understand that. Secondly,
So
the economic activities of Indonesia and the United Kingdom are going to be far different than what's going on in the United States. I do not have an in-depth knowledge of either of those countries, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you which one is doing better or why it's doing better. But I don't see how that's relevant to my discussion about immigration in the
yeah,
United
yeah.
States.
So that's the problem, is that you constantly deflect when you actually are given any kind of analogies, and it's something that I see often from you. And I'm going to say John Tron is not a good debater. This
So,
is obviously not
okay,
something
hold
to
on.
do.
Just because I have
But
to go
when I
one at a
stood up,
time. Well, I got to go one at a time so you don't gish at me. You
sure,
say that I'm
exactly.
deflecting on analogies. The reason why I'm deflecting on these analogies is because the countries that you're bringing up are not analogous for these comparisons. If you so
That's stupid.
I
Again,
know
you
you. I know
deflect.
that you understand that, okay?
Let me
But if
explain.
you
No, no,
no,
let me
I have
explain.
to finish my point because you're gish galloping the fuck out of me, okay? So
No, no, you are interrupting me,
I'm
and
not
then I'm
interrupting
trying
you.
to.
I'm responding to your first point about not using these other countries as analogies, okay? So if you read any economic literature or you read anything that economists put out when they're speaking specifically about things, one of the really important and careful things that they have to do when they construct arguments is to choose good cities to model economic behavior after. If you're trying to do a comparison of what is the economic impact of immigration in this city, when you compare it to other cities, choosing those controls is sometimes the most important part of the study. So when I'm trying to have a discussion about the impacts of immigration in the United States, and somebody wants to sidestep that and point out Indonesia or the United Kingdom, which are countries that face vastly different problems than ours, have vastly different economies than ours, and have vastly different ways of dealing with things than ours, I don't think that that's an accurate comparison. For instance, in the
Yes,
United Kingdom, you have
listen,
free
now you're
healthcare.
gish galloping
What?
me again.
I'm not gish
See,
galloping. Okay,
no, no,
sorry.
no. You
Response.
are.
Okay,
You
so
know
do you disagree with that assessment that these economies are vastly different than ours?
what I disagree is with your argument. So this is what you do: you deflect from my original argument to saying that the analogous is not applicable, and then you just go on this tangent saying facts, bring up facts that have nothing to do with the argument. My point was to say that my original point was to say that measuring the growth of an economy by GDP is not an accurate way to measure
Which
economic
not
growth.
I've already
And
agreed with
that is
that, and I
something that
never stated that. I've agreed with
all
that,
you
and
are
I've
doing
never
right
stated that.
now, and again, all you're doing right now is this pointless self-flagellation in
Hold
order
on,
to try.
dude, Doug, you literally starting off by straw manning me. Nowhere in any of my
Oh, I
videos.
understand that. Now
No, no,
listen,
no, 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 no. You don't understand. You're literally making an argument against something that I've never stated. Never in any of my YouTube videos or Twitter or anything have I ever said if GDP grows, it's good for the everybody in the economy. I have never made that statement in my life.
all right. Well, then now we can get into the actual point. And this is what
Okay,
I
well
was
here,
trying to
so then for the actual
stop
point,
interrupting. Shush, stop.
but
Listen,
I can't.
you're
I
doing.
can't let you. No, no. I can't have you continue an argument where your premises are
Shush,
already majorly
shush,
flawed. So we have to
shush.
discuss the
Shut
premises.
up.
Do you think that the
Shut up.
United Kingdom's economy is comparable to the United States?
Do I think that's a point that even fucking matters to the argument?
Yes,
No.
because you're
Shut
trying to
up.
draw an analogy between the countries. They need to be comparable to do that.
Yeah, but the analogy that I was drawing was the difference between GDP and GDP per capita. Now you're just going off on a tangent trying to self-flagellate yourself, proving some pseudo-intellectual point that doesn't even have anything to do with my argument or the argument at hand.
Okay,
Now,
your initial argument was against a straw man that I hadn't stated, and now
yeah,
your second
exactly. That's
argument is that
perfectly
you should
fine.
be able
And
to
now
compare the
you're
United
just
States to
beating the
countries that are totally different than ours.
and now you're just beating the horse because again, that wasn't what you said, and you're just self-flagellating yourself. You're on some moral high horse. So shut up.
What are
Let's
we
get to
are
the.
not even talking about morality. What do you think moral high horse means?
I mean that you're trying to set yourself up on a pedestal. You're trying to gish gallop, and you're trying to argue a point that I'm
I'm
not
trying.
making.
You were making the point
Yeah,
specifically
and I
that we.
conceded that that was a straw man.
Wait,
Now, if
okay. Are you
shut
conceding
up,
also that you can't compare the United States to the United Kingdom and Indonesia?
so we can't draw analogies to show basic economic truths.
What
You're
what
fucking.
basic economic truths do you want to
The
talk
basic
about?
economic truth is that measuring GDP is not an accurate way of measuring growth in an
You
economy.
already agreed that that was a straw man that I wasn't making,
Exactly.
though.
And now you're just going off on a tangent. So stop doing that. That's what you do. It's annoying as fuck. It just proves that you're just trying to just jack yourself off to your audience. So stop doing that. Let's go point by point and make this argument.
Sure
All
thing.
right.
What's the first point you
So
want to
now,
go over, buddy?
what is your? Well, that was the first point. And now that you've
Okay,
said
so
that
now
is
that your
your
first point is a straw man, what's your
what
next
is your
point?
well, what I want to know now that's a straw man, what is your economic argument for the benefit of migration?
It seems to grow the economy in a variety of ways that benefits most of the people living here.
Okay, name one.
Growth of the supply of labor decreases the cost of labor for companies. It means companies have to pay less for labor so that they can offer products cheaper to people, increases standards of living because more people have access to cheaper products. That's one way that it helps the product market, I guess. Another way it can help the labor market is when a lot of immigrants move into an area, other workers have other complementary jobs that open that also increase, job opportunity for them as well. I mean, that's an argument from a job point of view. Overall growth of a country, the overall growth of the GDP, and the overall growth of the economy
Oh, so you're saying
creates
overall
benefits for other
growth of
people.
GDP is a part of your argument. So that wasn't a straw man.
No, I'm talking about the economy. I'm talking about the job market, and I'm talking about the cost of goods. I'm not talking about GDP. Nowhere in here did I
You
say
just mentioned
GDP.
GDP. You
No, I
just mentioned
didn't say
that
GDP. I
overall
specifically
growth of the
spoke
economy.
about the job market, and I specifically spoke about the cost of goods. Okay, these are
Yeah,
two things that
job
are
market,
not
cost of
GDP.
productivity, all of these things do include are impact. So what you're actually saying is you're describing in detail things that basically amount to the growth of the gross domestic product. And the
No,
problem
because
is
it's possible to grow GDP without growing either of these things. You can grow GDP without having a positive or negative impact on the job market or a positive or negative impact on the cost of goods.
and how would that be?
What do you mean?
Like how would you grow to GDP without either making goods cheaper
I don't
or
know. Think
without
of a way. GDP is just the collective cost of all the goods and services in a society, right? You don't necessarily have to make them. There's millions of different things that go into impacting GDP. I don't know, fucking real estate, There's a million different ways of raising price on something that could impact GDP that don't relate to these two specific things.
So, without doing this gish gallop thing, which you do to make yourself sound intelligent, talking about these extremely detailed vagities, can you name one actual economic number that migrants have impacted in a positive way that shows that migration is beneficial? A number
Sure.
that we
David Carr did a
actually.
very specific study on the impact of supply shock of labor when a whole bunch of people came over from Cuba into Miami and analyzed the impact of wages there. And he found that over a trend of 10 to 15 years, there weren't really any massively horrible negative
Yeah, that's
impacts.
actually not true, and you're being disingenuous. I know that study, and that study actually showed that the instant impact was a decrease in the price of labor and the decrease of wages across the board for low wage workers. However, after after the sudden increase from the Cuban boat lift decreased, there was a gradual amalgamation into the regular economy. So you're basically just wrong.
Okay, what is your background in economics?
I'm not gonna tell you shit, nigga.
Okay, I'm parroting opinions from Borjas, who's one of the most respected
Yeah, and
immigration
I've
economists
read
in the
that,
United
and I
States.
have read
So,
that study, and that is what it says, and that's
okay,
exactly what you said.
so
After the
I'm
boat
telling you
club,
this right
there
now.
was a
Okay,
decrease in wages.
if you're disagreeing with leading economists in the fields, I'm not smart
I'm
enough to
not
argue with you.
disagreeing with
You
it. You
are
are being
though.
disingenuous.
If you are
You are not
disagreeing
actually
with
read the
leading
study.
econ,
And here you go, an appeal to authority. You don't know what you're talking about. You're disagreeing with leading economists. No, I am telling you, this is what the study said. The study that you didn't read, that you're just parroting.
I didn't. Okay, dude.
Yeah.
What
Well, you
else?
want to bring up the study? I can
Yeah.
tell you.
I mean, what about it?
It's the Cuban boat lift after
Yeah,
Cuba.
I know about it. Yeah, I read the fucking study. I know about it, right? There is
You
a
read
small
exactly
depression in
what you
wages amongst non-high school graduate people for some period of time, but over 20 to 30 years, most of those seem to disappear
over
completely.
20 to 30 years. And here's the difference. That migration was instant and small and stopped. It wasn't this continuous flow of migration.
Okay, but it
So
was
there
also
was a
but it was a massive supply of
migration.
workers. It was a massive
Yes,
supply of
a
workers. It was
massive
200,000
supply.
people being introduced to this economy. So a lot of people would have made the predictions that like, oh, well, the economy will collapse here, low wage workers will be destroyed for generations to come, blah 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 blah. But for the most part,
Now you're just arguing against a straw man because this is what you do. This is what people also do with like free healthcare. Oh, Sweden isn't this wasteland. Sweden hasn't been destroyed by God. No, that's not the argument. Again, you're building up a straw man to slap it down. The argument is that migration depletes low wage earners. That argument is true, especially when you talk about continued mass migration. So
okay,
you
but I
brought up a
never
that
even
proves
if
my point. You read wrong because you don't understand what you're.
So even if your argument does have some truth to it, which it does, okay, massive immigration from low skilled workers can have a detrimental on hyper specific job markets, right? In the specific study we're talking about, we are talking about the average earnings of no high school graduate workers, okay, of a certain age group. There were net benefits for the economy that can be measured and are accounted for, right?
Okay,
The
like
entire
what?
point when what?
Wait. Name one. Name the net benefit. Are you talking about GDP? Because we just had that argument.
How about cheaper labor for businesses?
Uh-huh. And what does that cheaper labor mean? That also means lower wages for low wage earners. So you're basically
I'm sorry, do
repackaging.
you know how economics works? What are you talking about, dude?
Yeah, do you know how I
Okay,
can?
hold
This
on.
is exactly what
I need you to take a break for a moment. Hold on. No, I need you to take a break for a moment. Okay? If you were a business and you have to pay your employee like 50 million times as much as another employee, the cost of your final product is going to be higher. Do you not acknowledge that?
Again, what you're doing here is exactly what you do. What you do is you deflect from the point, you say something that sounds intelligent, is just
I'm
repackaging, and
sorry.
you're
No, what I'm telling you is really
excuse
basic,
me, let
ultra
me finish
basic
my point.
economic.
Excuse me,
Dude.
let me finish my point. What you did was you said you'll get cheaper wages. You know what? You get cheaper labor. What that also means is lower wages. So
Are
you're
you
just
for or against an increase in the minimum wage? Do you think a $15 an hour minimum wage is a good idea?
no, it's a fucking
Why?
stupid.
It's bigger wages for everybody though, dude. Why is it a bad idea?
Well, because it's distortionary to the economy. It
What
doesn't
do you mean?
actually.
And artificially stemming the supply of labor isn't distortionary? Why are these two things different? You're talking about artificially increasing the cost of labor by decreasing immigration. Why is that bad?
Well, because one of them is the market reacting, which deals with human, psychology and the basic market forces, while the other is an arbitrary wage, which is distortionary to the market.
Okay,
So
so if you're an
that's
employer and you have to either hire a worker at 20 an hour because you have no pool of labor to draw from and nobody wants to come work for you because there's nobody there to hire and you got to pay $20 an hour to them versus the minimum wage goes up to 20 an hour, what the fuck is the difference of that to the businessman?
well, I mean, the difference is where that money is going and who is enforcing it and how the
It's
market
going
forces.
to labor. What do you mean? Where is the money going?
Well, is it going to Americans or is it going
Who
to foreigners?
cares if it's who it's going to? It's going to
I do
labor.
because I'm an
Why?
American. You douchebag. I
And you're
want to get
talking to me on a computer that you could afford. You probably have a cell phone that you could afford because it didn't cost $4,000 because it was manufactured in a country that can do it at much cheaper prices than we could in the United States. What does being an
see
American have to do with artificially increasing the cost of labor?
funny it just is here just people on the left parrot these libertarian economic talking points whenever it's convenient. It really is because it really, I mean, it also shows how little you understand about the economy. Because here's the thing, Migration is not the same as free trade. They're just not the same. So when you were going on this tangent, oh, we can't use Britain and India to show this economic point, but here you are using the same kind of analogy when it's beneficial to you. It shows the kind of arguments that you do. It shows the kind of disingenuous points you bring up,
You're
and it
calling
shows
my points disingenuous, and when I
yes,
ask you,
because
and
yes,
then you literally say, and then you literally have the nerve to ask, you go, how does cheaper labor, what is that, how does that help a company? Do you have any idea how
well,
fucking retarded that sounds, dude? How does cheaper labor help a company, dude? Just because they
well,
have to pay a less wage, how is that helping the company at all? I don't know, dude.
this
Get
is
a fucking
totally
job
why
and talk to your
this is
manager. Like, what
totally
kind of a?
this is why I wanted to argue with you because I
Because you're
know
gonna sit here and be smug as fuck without having any idea what you're talking about. How does
look into
cheaper
a mirror
labor? How does cheaper labor
because
help a
what
company,
you
dude?
what you did was you just redefined lower wages as cheaper labor when it was beneficial to your argument,
Because
and that's how
that's what lower
disingenuous.
wages are, cheaper labor by definition.
Oh, so it's cheaper labor when you want it, but it's lower wages when you don't. Also, analogies are
Wait,
good
what
when
what
you
do you mean? They're one and the same. Cheaper labor and lower wages usually go hand in hand. What are you talking about? If the wage is lower, the labor is cheaper. What?
yeah, exactly. And you are only saying cheaper labor. You're not saying it's lower wages. You're
Okay, lower
completely
wages. I'll use that word if you want. I thought we were talking about the same thing.
so
Let me know if I need to.
you want Americans to have lower wages, and
It
you
de-
think that's beneficial for the
Not
economy.
necessarily. It depends on what.
Oh, there we go. Ha ha.
And if you would look at any of these economists that analyze these markets, you would find that just because you have a decrease in the cost of labor in certain things doesn't mean that the entire labor market is impacted. There are complementary jobs or positions
No,
and
of course they
management that
not.
may open up, okay?
Of
And you
course
also
not.
have a cheaper cost of goods at the end of the day to the average American person. If you're
Yeah,
earning a little bit less, but everything around you costs less, that doesn't necessarily mean you're getting fucked. You're giving me this hyper one-dimensional view of economics. Like, I don't understand, like, what is your point?
well, I mean, like you're saying that it's beneficial to the GDP, to the
I'm
average
saying
person.
that it's beneficial to the
See,
overall economy.
listen,
You can't
interrupt.
misconstrue my argument and then say, don't interrupt me when I'm paraphrasing you.
Yeah, well, how about you be a polite person and don't interrupt me? If you'll not interrupt me, I'll stop interrupting you. Okay? Can we make that sort of like a generality?
Yeah, sure
Stopping a
thing.
douchebag interrupting me, I'll stop interrupting you.
Yeah, go ahead, go for it, buddy.
So you're saying in general terms that it's good for the average person in the economy, which I'm going to say, like, using this as a number on the paper, the numbers on the paper work really, really well. The numbers going up, the stock market is inflating, whatever. That's a benefit to this person called the economy. But who it actually hurts is low wage earners. What it actually hurts is their ability to compete in the labor field. And you can say that like there are other management positions that would open up. Well, I mean, that's true with any growing economy. I mean, that's true with our economy right now. What the mass migration does is it continuously depresses wages over a long period of time. And maybe it's good for the 1%. Maybe it's good for the middle class. Maybe it's good for people who don't have to compete for construction jobs. Because, there are people out there who don't have to compete for construction jobs. Heaven knows I fucking don't. Heaven knows you don't. But who it's actually bad for is lower wage people. And I just think it's funny how somebody who's generally on the left is completely okay with fucking over lower wage people to benefit the economy because it suddenly benefits your political your political ideology to import millions of people.
All right, are you done?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
a
so an intelligent person coming at this from the idea of growing the economy for everybody would take what you said, look at it, understand that parts of what you are saying are factually true. There are people that are hurt by supply shock to immigration, or by supply shock to labor markets via immigration, okay? There are low-wage workers that are hurt. Manufacturing in America has been hurt by the exporting of jobs to other countries, right? However, the intelligent person seeks to capitalize on the gains, of which you seem to not acknowledge there are any of, and then redistribute those gains to the people that are hurt to continue to grow the economy for everybody. This is what a sensible discussion on immigration policy is. It is not, we need to get rid of all of these people hurting low-wage earners, blah, 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 but it is instead, we need to find a way to redistribute the winnings from the people that benefit the most off of this type of immigration and redistribute those winnings to the people that are hurt most by it so that we can continue to enjoy lower cost of goods and a growing economy for everybody.
yeah, but that's not how it works. You can't just do that.
How
And the
why
reason
how
why
can you
is
not
that
just do that? What do you mean? You can't tax people in certain ways to take advantage of certain types of immigration? You can't charge people higher V for H1B visas or anything? These are impossible things to do?
I mean, you can, but it's detrimental to the economy because what you're talking about is like sort of I don't know the exact economic term, but so I'm going to use philosophical terms. There's a priori and then post priori. So I'm working in the a priori, which means before the money is made, before the exchange happens. You're working in the post priori. So the problem is that before the money exchanges, when you're dealing with market forces, you're dealing with a natural and organic growth of the economy. When you talk about post priori, which is where you are on collecting taxes and everything, tax the fucking rich people so we can give it back to the poor people who we just displaced with all the mass migration, because that makes more sense.
I can't. Can we move on to the next thing? I can't have a discussion on
Well,
economics with you. You're not equipped for this discussion. Can we just move on to the next point?
so one,
I'm not going to argue with somebody that's going to go into like the taxes are evil. Blah, like it's not a
well,
discussion that
no,
you're
and
prepared
I
to
didn't.
have.
Excuse me. That's a straw man. I didn't say taxes are evil. I said that they're distortionary because they work against the natural forces of the market. I mean, I
Sure.
understand that you
Yep.
don't know what you're
I
talking
understand.
about.
All taxes are bad. All social programs are bad. All of that.
Here
I
we go.
understand, dude.
Oh, straw man,
No, no, dude.
straw
I
man,
totally get it. No, dude.
straw
I'm a
manning me.
classical liberal
Bill,
libertarian, dude.
that's
No, I
straw
totally. Can we just
manning
move on
me.
to the next? Can we move on to the next thing, dude?
Yeah, let's just move on because you obviously don't know what you're
I
talking
know,
about.
dude.
So
I
let's
can't.
go
I'm
on to
too.
so I want to say this is just a final point that we didn't bring up, just for my audience and yours that'll be watching this. The net benefit that I can find for taxes being paid by low-wage illegal migrants is $12 billion, while the net detriment in terms of roads, bridges, schools, etc., is $112 billion. So
Wow.
even
So you're
out
not
all
measuring any of the economic growth. You're not measuring any of the benefits to the companies that are employing low cost labor. You're not measuring any of the. Does this include like sales tax and gas tax paid by these people? Does it like are you including any of this? Or are you just getting like raw numbers off of income tax paid? You realize that all income tax paid by people that make less than 10 to 15K a year is almost negligible, right? Like a lot of these people pay negative tax rates.
Yeah, so why would you want to import more people that are going to be paying negative tax rates? It seems kind
Because
of
what?
stupid.
Because tax rate alone is the only way that you measure an increase in the economy.
I mean, it's almost like they're going to be a burden on everybody. They're going to make lower wage earners poor, and all they're going to do is make people at the upper crust really wealthy. It's almost like you're making an argument for wealth inequality.
It's almost like I said, a sensible immigration policy finds a way to redistribute the winnings from the winningness people getting, the most advantages from this immigration deal and finding ways to retrain or
I
rejob
mean,
people that are
yeah,
the most severely
yeah,
impacted.
exactly. Let's fuck over poor people, but let's fuck rich people more. That makes sense. Anyway, let's move on to
Well,
Black Lives Matter. So,
okay,
your
yeah. I
your
can't, dude. I'm
argument
sorry.
for
Listen,
Black
I
Lives
enjoy. Listen, dude. I enjoy it, but you're not equipped to have these conversations, dog.
no.
You've
I
got
mean,
your YouTube channel. I sincerely appreciate what you do. I hope you continue to have success, dog. But I'm gonna kill myself if I have to talk to you anymore. I'm sorry, dude. Good luck with everything. I can't. I'm sorry, guys. I can't. Not with this guy. I can't do it. This is what I feel like I feel like the Stephen Molyneux conversation would be similar to this. Like I can't have these conversations, dude. Like I'm gonna end up fucking killing myself. Like I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I can't. Maybe we can have Yeah, I don't know. Fuck, dude. We need to play games, play video games, right? That's what we do here. Who the fuck was that? Ape Rape or something? I don't remember. What was his name? Oh, Naked Ape. I watched that one video and it should have been an indicator of what was going on.
this is the